Hey everybody, hello. I'm doing an audio video. And the reason I'm doing this audio video is because I am relaxing today. I was going to get up and do a video, in-person video, but I probably will do that tomorrow. I kind of got a late start because I started feeling kind of sick, and so that's why I'm doing an audio. I want to be a woman of my word. So anyway, on today we are talking about Dasha Kelly. And if you're unfamiliar as to who Dasha Kelly is, by the way, welcome to Carol's Daily Sauce. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to click on the bell so that you're reminded of all the videos that I upload. What we are talking about is evictions. Evictions are everywhere, and these evictions are affecting everybody. These evictions, most of them came about when COVID hit in 2020. And if you're unsure or don't know what an eviction is when someone defaults on a contract, the contract that you have with your landlord. So when you looked at the place and decided that you wanted to rent the place, you were and agreed to a set amount per month, per 6 months, however the agreement was. And as a result of whatever, job loss, COVID, being laid off, whatever happened within the last few years, more than likely, a great percentage of the evictions that are taking place now are a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is a story of a young woman by the name of Dasha Kelly. And Dasha was being interviewed on CNN. And so I'm going to tell you about her. Dasha is a 20-something young woman. She is a single parent with 3 children, and she is facing eviction. So let's talk about what happened. Dasha was working, and she was able to keep her rent up. She was able to stay forward in her bills. But when COVID hit, Dasha was laid off. And as a result of her being laid off, she was unable to keep up with her rent. She, as I said, is a mother of 3 children. She has 3 daughters. They are ages 5, 6, and 8. And this young lady was, I believe, laid off from her job. And when she was laid off from her job, so she was laid off her job. And as a result of being laid off her job, Dasha received a 24-hour evict notice at her Las Vegas apartment. So she was doing all that she could to raise money. She went as far as selling her and her children's beds, and was just doing all that she could to raise the $2,000 that she owed in back rent, so that she would not have her and her children living on the streets, literally. She was invited to share her story on CNN, and it was a blessing because within 24 hours, Dasha had raised a lot of money, so much so that it was close to $200,000. Now, here's a woman who got laid off her job due to COVID, struggled, did all that she can to make ends meet for her. So what happened is a GoFundMe fund was started and raised almost $200,000 after the television interview on CNN. Deja was so grateful that she literally was moved to tears and couldn't breathe. She said that now she knows that her and her children will be all right, and she is in shock at the outpouring of love that people gave her that didn't even know her. On the TV in the interview, you could tell that she was visibly overtaken with emotion. So prior to her getting laid off, she was a dealer in one of the Las Vegas casinos when the pandemic hit. This woman at that time lost her car, and then her job, and then she was unable to even pay for daycare. Some of the ways that she was able to raise money was donating blood. She sold about nearly everything that she owned to ensure that her children would not be homeless. One of the donors who donated to her themselves was in dire straits, and they said, "This is all I have. I don't have any more than this. But even though I don't have that much, I can donate you $25 because I would do whatever I have to do to help another." Now, y'all, that right there, for somebody to only be able to donate $25 and then say that they wanted to donate more, but the most important thing was helping another person. That's where we all need to be during this time. But the problem right now is everybody is thinking every man for himself. Remember when this thing first hit? People were going into the stores, they were buying up all the water, they were buying up all the toilet paper, all of the paper towels, because they didn't want to run out. They weren't even concerned about their neighbor. They weren't concerned about their other family members. They were only concerned about what it is that they would need. And then we had some that went further than that, and they were buying things in bulk and then selling them at skyrocketing prices. I mean, literally beating people over the head for a roll of toilet paper. Sad. One of the biggest donors that gave to Deja and her daughters was someone who donated close to $2,000. And they mentioned how sorry they were that Deja had to fight so hard to provide for her children to ensure that they were safe and sound. You know, the reality is that the United States cannot continue to give us stimulus checks. If the United States continued to give every person who is under a certain income bracket stimulus checks, the United States would go bankrupt. I mean, I think they can do it for a certain period of time, but then they'd have to stop because the end result would be bankruptcy. It just makes me think of all the people who are experiencing this eviction type of situation. Thousands and thousands upon thousands of families all over the world, in our country, in the United States, are becoming victims of eviction all across the country. We live in a country where homelessness is already overflowing and rampant as it is. And if this eviction thing continues to go forward, homelessness will be on and at an all-time high. It will also inflict an increase of crime. And the reason it's going to inflict an increase of crime is because people will take drastic, desperate, and dire measures as their need becomes great. The greater the need it is to care for your family members, to care for yourself, you'll do anything. I mean, look at California when the pandemic first hit. I can only speak for California. There are other states that went through things. People were looting all over the place. I literally went to the store, and I couldn't even get in the store the next day after the looting because the Walmart that I went to go visit to shop in to get some stuff for my husband and myself, the Walmart was closed down. They had burnt one half part of the Walmart, and it took months for the Walmart to even open. I'd like to also talk about is the CDC, Centers for Disease Control. And the reason I say that so clearly is I had someone tell me that I didn't know what the CDC was. The same person that told me I didn't know what the CDC was someone who also told me that COVID was none other than a flu. And I got jacked, I think he said. It was some man crazy. And I haven't heard from him in months and months and months. And that's probably for one or two reasons. He either got COVID or he decided to leave me alone because I wasn't playing his games. I wasn't going to go back and forth with somebody. People can have their beliefs of what they think is whatever. What I'm not going to do, Carol, is go back and forth with you over what you believe and what I believe. I stand firm on what I believe as far as COVID is concerned, considering the fact that I had it 2 times. How dare someone who has never had it tell me what it is? Anyway, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, announced a few days ago that the eviction moratorium was going to end. But the CDC placed a 60-day COVID eviction moratorium hold for certain United States countries. Those countries or those states that have a high rate and a spike in the disease in the area of the Delta variant. The CDC is planning to expand this hold for more states, but they just have to wait and see how it pans out. Basically, what they're saying is that additional states will be added to the list as the COVID cases rise. Right now, this particular 60-day hold, the extension already covers 90% of the United States. So my question is, if this 60-day hold from the CDC is already in place, why would they even lift the eviction moratorium? I don't understand. But on the other hand, I want to speak about the landlords. What we have to understand is even if people are getting laid off from their jobs, there has to be a way that they are able to pay their bills, whether it be through unemployment, whether it be through social services, whether it be through donations, whatever way, people have to be able to pay their bills. Because if they're unable to pay their bills, one or two things is going to happen. They're going to take dire straits, fall into dire straits, or they're going to remain in people's homes, and the landlords are going to be stuck with covering their bills. What we have to understand is just because landlords own the property doesn't mean that they have money. I'm going to say that again. Just because the landlords own the property does not mean that they have money. I literally met a landlord, and this particular person that I met told me that the moratorium was a good thing, but what about the landlords? I read also in an article, who is going to help the landlords? Now, it's crazy because people are being evicted out of houses that they're renting, but the landlords at one time weren't being given money. There were no programs to cover them. So I feel for the landlords. And the reason I feel for the landlords is because they are at risk of losing their investments. So even though I don't agree with putting people out on the streets, I also believe that there should be some increased protection for the landlords as well. Because think about it. If a landlord's investment of their property is the only thing that they have as their source of income, then how are they going to eat? How are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to keep their family functioning? Y'all understand what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? It's a no-win situation. So this is the type of situation where somehow the leaders of our country have to come together. First of all, I don't know whether you guys know it or not, but our president of each of the 50 states of the United States, all of those persons, Secret Service, all of those persons that work in and for the White House. I'm not talking about the cook. I'm not talking about the butler. I'm not talking about the maid. I'm not talking about those people who actually work in the White House. I'm talking about the people. I'm talking about the people who make the rules and the regulations. I'm talking about the people who sit for hours and hours and hours making and setting down rules and regulations for us. I am talking about our world leaders. That's who I'm talking about. Those persons make six-figure salaries. They are also the same persons that get to close down for 3 months in the summer and still get their money. I don't know whether you guys know it or not, but our leaders, not just the president, but I'm talking about the representatives of each state, not the mayors, I'm sorry, but the representatives, the state representatives of each state, the Republicans and the Democrats. When those people retire, they still get six-figure salaries. If they should die, their spouse still gets the money as if they're still working. I know this because I used to work for the government. So I'm not talking or saying something that I don't know anything about. We were in talks, meaning me and my coworkers were in talks about how is it that the men and the women of the United States go and fight for their country. And even in the midst of fighting for their country, when they get out of the military, they have to have had served 20 some odd years and be released from the military in good standing. And that way they will get monies and benefits for the rest of their life. But here's another catch. The benefits that they get, years ago, military personnel were told that they would never have to pay for their medical benefit. They were told that they would never have to pay for their medical benefits. They were told they'd never have to pay for that. Right now, they are paying for it. They are paying quarterly fees. How do I know? Because I used to work at the hospital in the department that charges for those fees. So I know whether you are active duty does not pay. But once they become non-active duty, once they become retired, once they become reservists, they are paying a certain amount of money a quarter for them and their families to have that, medical entitlement. It's sad because you go and serve for your country, whether it be 2 years or 20, and you still have to pay for your medical benefit or medical entitlement. When you were told, when soldiers and sailors were told years and years ago that they would never have to pay for it, that was in the day of Champus. Some of y'all may not know what Champus is. I do because I was a part of Champus at one time when I was a military wife. But it's just really, really sad. It's crazy. Those that are fighting for their lives, fighting for our country, don't get half of what those that just sit up in seats at the Capitol day after day after day get. They go and fight on the battlefield, but they don't continue to get the money unless they give 20 years, unless they're injured in the military. It's so unfair. But anyway, I don't know what state you all live in. I know that I live in California. I know that I read everything. Go ahead and open the door, babe. I read everything. And the state that I live in, California, has several programs with rental assistance. And some of these programs allow for their residents to apply for the programs to receive money back. Some of them allow the residents to apply for the programs so that they can get the monies on a grant to pay their back rent. Not all states have this. The state of California does. Now, the way it works is this. If their landlord is willing to work with them and take the back rent, so it has to be in writing that the landlord will not continue to evict them and that he will receive the money, the back pay from the grant that they get, but he cannot evict them. He can get the money. If he or she refuses, the person that is actually being evicted will be given a portion of that money out of the grant to allow them to move elsewhere. So it's just really, really sad. And it seems to me, as I look at the world, I went out yesterday, and when we were out and about, I noticed there are less people wearing masks. Here in California, you are not required in certain cities to wear a mask if you are fully vaccinated. Do you think they're going to have someone at the door at every building, every business that you go into saying, "Can you please show me your COVID card?" They're not. But I also know that in the city of Sacramento, because people are always going and coming and moving fast, if you are stopped by an officer and you don't have on a mask, you can be fined or arrested if you cannot prove that you are vaccinated. The crazy thing about it is this: even if you are vaccinated, you really need to wear your mask anyway, because when you look at the percentage of people who end up contracting COVID, a great amount of them have been vaccinated. But on the other hand, we have to look at it like this. A lot of people were gung-ho about going and getting their COVID vaccination. Once they got the first bout of it and got so sick, many of them didn't go back for the second one. And that's why a lot of the people who have been vaccinated are getting it, because they're not fully vaccinated. I remember when I went to go and get mine, and when I went to go and get mine, I was told you have to come back. I believe it's 3 weeks to a month, and come back and get it. They set the day that you get it, they set the date that you are to come back. They give you a paper or your card telling you when you're to come back. At the time of giving you the vaccination, they tell you the types of things that you can expect to feel. Discomfort. Some people find that they sleep all day. Some people, in what I've noticed and people that I've talked to, are those who already had COVID, had the worst symptoms after taking the vaccination. When I took the vaccination the first time, the first bout, I had symptoms of having COVID. Body aches, headaches, no appetite, nausea, everything. When I went back for the second bout, the same thing happened. So literally after taking the vaccination both times, the first bout and the second, I had symptoms. Many people think that was because I already experienced COVID. I just can't wait until it's all over. Now they're opening up schools and everything. Children are having to go back to school. A lot of them, college students, are being told by certain colleges, you can't go in there. You can't come here unless you're fully vaccinated. So I know this was a story about Dasha Kelly, and we were talking about evictions and stuff, and then it went into vaccinations and things like that, but it's all related. The bottom line is Dasha Kelly they have raised close to $200,000 for her. I don't know her as a person. I don't know her spending habits. I don't know anything about her. All I know is what I read in the article, what I seen on the internet in the video. And my thought is this: if you have a GoFundMe and you raise $200,000, is that you should probably have the monies set aside for housing, and then the other half of it set aside for emergencies. Because if you give someone $200,000 or close to $200,000 and they have not ever had that amount of money at one time, there's no telling what they will do. Now, if she gets this money and she goes and pays her back rent, and then she goes and fills her house up with groceries and she replaces all of the stuff that she got rid of, and she will be able to get a car and actually can pay for a car cash, that's good. But we want to make sure that our donations are going and being used appropriately. So go ahead and put in the comments what you guys think about this here story. I look at it as being a beautiful story. I look at it as being helpers one to another, as the Bible states that we are to be. But on the other hand, I believe that there should be not necessarily restrictions, but there should be, I guess I can say that. I guess I do believe that there should be restrictions, only because even though it is her GoFundMe account, I'm not even sure if she set it up or someone set it up for her. But either way, we just want to make sure that when you are pouring into somebody, donating into somebody, that the money is spent in the appropriate way that it was intended to be spent. Not to say that Dasha would go out and do anything reckless, because I don't know her. I don't. All I'm saying is, when you get help, you want to make sure that when you get that help, that you are using the finances for what they are intended for. You know, just like our little friend who had the issue with the monkey gorilla spray, and how she now is an entrepreneur. So the monies that was made for her or donated for her, she ended up getting a business out of it. And I guess that's okay, but we just want to ensure that her and her children are in safe housing, that all of the stuff, definitely their beds, are replaced, and that the money is going exactly where it was intended to go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, go ahead, put your comments in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Tell me if this is the kind of thing that you want to hear. Once again, I apologize that I did not do an in-person video, but a lot of people say that my voice is kind of peaceful, so they can walk around and clean and do other kind of things just listening, as opposed to looking at a video.